The Charlotte Bobcats select Adam Morrison from Gonzaga University.
Adam Morrison. For a lot of basketball fans, these two words conjure up a pretty specific image of a tall, weary guy with a goofy mustache who had a pretty legendary college career. Of course, when you talk about draft busts from the 2000s, his name inevitably comes up. You can even say he's the poster child for high expectations and unrealized potential. But like the old head I am, I think some fans fail to realize that things weren't always like this for Morrison. Back in 2006, the hype around him was insane. Morrison was the leading scorer in the nation, co-player of the year, and a genuine star at Gonzaga. As they say, he wore his emotions on his sleeve, trash talking, arguing with opponents and refs, and even crying after losses. That made him must-see TV in the 2000s. But let's rewind for a moment. In 2006, the Bobcats were still a relatively new team, entering only their third season. They were looking to build an identity, something beyond being an expansion franchise. The roster had a few promising young pieces, 2004 Rookie of the Year Emeka Okafor, and point guard Raymond Felton from the 2005 draft. But offense? That was a serious problem. They ranked dead last in field goals made, despite being second in attempts. They needed a scorer, and Morrison seemed like the perfect fit. Oh my gosh, am I doing it again? Am I shamelessly plugging another video? Yes. I've made a whole video about the 2004 draft where we go over more on Emeka Okafor and the Bobcats as a whole, so if you haven't watched it, you should watch it after this video. Anyways, back to Morrison. I'm not sure how well known this is today, but a huge part of Adam Morrison's story was his lifelong battle with type 1 diabetes. While every single athlete has his own unique situation to overcome, you don't often hear the top guys fighting diabetes. Diagnosed at just 14 years old, Adam had to learn to monitor his blood sugar levels at all times. While this could have crushed his NBA dreams, Morrison didn't let it bother him. Right after a nurse gave him his second insulin shot, Morrison told her, "You better show me how to do this because I'm going to be doing it for the rest of my life." As mentioned before, there weren't many professional athletes with diabetes competing at a high level. Only one other player had done so in the NBA before Morrison, Chris Dudley, a journeyman big man known more for being at the end of Shaq's meanest dunk than his stats. So even as a teen, Morrison had to prove that not only was he talented enough to play basketball, but that with his condition, he could play at the highest level. And in high school, he became a scoring machine at Meade High in Spokane, Washington, averaging 27.7 points per game as a senior. Local legend has it that he regularly showed up at Gonzaga practices to play pickup games with college players, and held his own.
What did you take as a high school kid what kind of approach did you take when you came to play with us as college guys?
You know, I always felt like I could play at that level. And so I kind of just came in with the mentality of, let's find out what I really need to work on.
He was a 6'4" guard when he committed to Gonzaga, the only school willing to take a chance on him. By the time he hit the court for the Bulldogs, he'd grown to 6'8" and emerged as one of the most unstoppable scorers in the country. By his junior year, he was leading the nation in scoring with 28 points per game, shooting 50% from the field and 43% from three-point range. In part due to his offensive skills, and in part due to being a tall, unathletic white dude with long hair. Larry Bird comparisons followed him everywhere. Gonzaga's coach Mark Few even called its rivalry with JJ Redick that season the modern-day Bird vs. Magic, which kinda doesn't really make sense. That statement was questionable even back then, and now that we know how things turned out, yeah, it's not great. But Morrison wasn't Bird. He was a pure scorer, not an all-around playmaker or defender. Still, his emotional style, visible passion, and clutch performances made him one of the most beloved college players of his generation. His bank game winner against Oklahoma State became an instant college hoops classic.
6, fires, go! Get a three!
And when Gonzaga's championships hopes crumbled in a heartbreaking loss to UCLA, Morrison's tears on the court became the defining image of the 2006 NCAA tournament. Draft night 2006 was supposed to be the start of something special for Adam Morrison. The Charlotte Hornets, just 2 years removed from their inaugural season, were in desperate need of a star to lead their young franchise. Michael Jordan, then overseeing basketball operations, saw Morrison as the answer. I mean, why not? He was the co-player of the year, coming off a historic college season where he led the nation in scoring. The Bobcats ranked near the bottom in almost every offensive category. Morrison's scoring ability seemed like the perfect fix. The hype was real, and Morrison delivered in flashes during his rookie season. He averaged 11.8 points per game and showed glimpses of the offensive spark he brought to Gonzaga. But the transition to the NBA exposed glaring weaknesses. He struggled defensively and shot just 37.6% from the field. By midseason, he found himself benched, unable to adapt to the faster, more physical professional game. Then came the injury. Morrison tore his ACL in a preseason game before his sophomore season, sidelining him for an entire year. When he returned, he was no longer the same player. The explosiveness, the confidence that defined him in college were gone. After playing just 44 games in the 2009 season, the Bobcats traded him to the LA Lakers. Though his time in Los Angeles was short and unremarkable statistically, it came with an unexpected silver lining: rings. Morrison was actually part of the Lakers' back-to-back championship teams in 2009 and 2010, though he played sparingly. His career stats by the time he left the NBA were underwhelming for your average player: 7.5 points, 2.1 rebounds, and 1.4 assists, and pretty terrible for a third pick. Critics have been relentless in labeling Morrison as one of the biggest busts in NBA history. But context matters, guys. His ACL injury, coupled with type 1 diabetes and his lack of defensive capabilities, played significant roles in his downfall. Some argue his style of play was better suited for the modern NBA, where spacing and shooting are emphasized. Unfortunately for Morrison, he entered the league at the wrong time, on the wrong team, with the wrong expectations. If you like this video and want to watch the rest of what happened to everybody in the 2006 draft, click on this video right here. Or if you want to watch another short video on another player from this draft, click on this video right here.